I walked through the front door carrying a celebration cake, my heart light with excitement about the promotion I'd finally earned after 2 years of dedication. The hallway looked different somehow. Boxes lined the walls, my favorite mirror leaning against the stairs. Confusion turned to ice-cold shock when I saw my sister Talia in my bedroom, casually folding my clothes into garbage bags like they were donations to charity. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely steady. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed with that expression I knew too well, the one that meant her decision was already final and arguing would be pointless. "Talia's moving in with Ronan," she said flatly. "You'll manage somewhere else, won't you?" The words didn't make sense at first. Then I saw him, Ronan, my boyfriend of 3 years, carrying my full-length mirror down the stairs, avoiding my eyes completely. The air collapsed from my lungs. "It's not what you think," he stammered weakly. Talia smirked, wrapping her arm around his waist possessively. "You'll find somewhere else, right, sis?" My name is Vesper Callahan, and that was the day my family traded me for convenience. I begged for an explanation, my voice rising with desperate confusion and hurt. "Mom, this is my room. I pay rent here. What's happening?" She waved her hand dismissively like I was being dramatic over nothing important. "Talia needs stability right now. You're always gone anyway, working all those hours." The casual cruelty of her logic stunned me silent. I turned to Ronan, searching his face for some sign of the man I'd loved. "How long?" I whispered. He finally met my eyes briefly before looking away in shame. "A few weeks," he admitted. Talia laughed, actually laughed at my pain. "You were gone all the time, Vesper. What did you expect?" She shrugged like my heartbreak was a minor inconvenience. "We just connected, it happens." Within an hour, I was standing on the curb with 3 hastily packed boxes containing fragments of my life. Through the window, I could see them inside, laughing, toasting with wine, celebrating their victory. The door locked with a finality that echoed through my chest. I sat on those boxes until dark, crying until I had no tears left, wondering how I'd become so disposable to people I'd loved unconditionally my entire life. The next morning at work, I walked into my manager's office expecting to discuss my new role and responsibilities. Instead, he looked uncomfortable shuffling papers on his desk without meeting my eyes directly. "About that promotion, Vesper," he began carefully. "We've decided to give the position to someone else. Internal hire." My stomach dropped. "But you said it was mine. I earned this." He cleared his throat awkwardly. Management felt another candidate was better suited. I learned the truth an hour later from a sympathetic coworker. Talia had been hired for my promotion. My mother had pulled strings with her friend in HR, spinning some story about Talia needing a fresh start and being more personable for the client-facing role I'd worked toward for 2 years. They'd stolen my boyfriend, my room, and now my career advancement, all in less than 24 hours. I walked back to my manager's office, placed my badge on his desk, and quit on the spot. "I won't work somewhere that rewards backstabbing over merit," I said calmly, my voice steadier than I felt. His shocked expression gave me the smallest, coldest satisfaction as I walked out of that building for the last time. My coworker Saren offered me her couch without hesitation when she heard what happened. Her apartment was tiny, barely enough space for one person, but she made room anyway with genuine kindness I wasn't used to receiving. I spent the first 3 nights replaying every moment, every insult, every casual dismissal of my worth. I analyzed every interaction with Ronan, searching for signs I'd missed. Had he been lying the whole time? When had Talia started stealing him? Sleep came in brief, nightmare-filled bursts. I'd wake up crying, disoriented, reaching for a life that no longer existed. Saren would make tea at 3 in the morning, sitting with me in comfortable silence. On the 4th night, she finally spoke. "You either drown in their story or start writing your own," she said simply, her words carrying weight I desperately needed. "Right now, you're letting them define your entire narrative. What if you change the author?" That line became my anchor in the following weeks. Every time I spiraled into self-pity or rage, I repeated those words like a mantra. I couldn't control what they'd done, but I could control what I did next. That realization was the first step toward reclaiming myself. I made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating at once. I gathered the few pieces of jewelry I owned, gifts from relatives, a necklace from my grandmother, and pawned them at a shop downtown. The money wasn't much, barely $800 total, but it was something. I used half to buy a used laptop from a computer repair shop, the screen slightly cracked but functional. The rest went toward basic supplies and a website domain. Late at night on Saren's couch, I started sketching designs for a home restoration business, channeling my pain into something creative and purposeful. I'd always loved interior design, had spent hours watching renovation shows and imagining how I'd transform broken spaces into beautiful sanctuaries. Now I had nothing left to lose by trying. I called it Hearthlight, a name that represented warmth, safety, and the idea of returning home to something peaceful. The logo took me 3 days to design, a simple flame inside a house outline. It felt like the first thing that was truly mine in years, built from my own vision rather than borrowed from someone else's approval. Creating it filled a hollow space inside me I hadn't realized existed until that moment. My first client came through a neighborhood Facebook group where I'd nervously posted my services. A woman named Iris needed help organizing her cluttered guest room before her mother's visit. She seemed kind during our initial phone call, excited about my ideas and affordable rates. We scheduled the appointment, and I showed up with samples and enthusiasm, ready to prove myself. Everything seemed perfect until she opened the door, recognition dawning on her face. "Wait, you're that girl," she said slowly. "The one whose sister stole her boyfriend, right? I saw the posts online." My heart sank. Apparently, Talia had been sharing her version of events on social media, painting me as the bitter, jealous sister who couldn't handle her happiness. Iris looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, but I don't want to get involved in family drama. This is probably a bad idea." She canceled on the spot, closing the door gently but firmly. I sat in my car in her driveway, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Small-town gossip was killing my confidence before I'd even started. That night, I stayed awake until dawn, completely redoing my portfolio and website to look more professional, more legitimate, more impossible to dismiss. A week later, while struggling to repair a damaged cabinet for a practice photo shoot of my work, a contractor named Lucan approached me at the hardware store. He'd overheard me asking for advice about wood staining and offered to help without being asked. "You working on a project?" he inquired with genuine interest. I explained about Hearthlight, about trying to start my business despite having minimal experience and even less confidence. He listened carefully, then said something that stayed with me forever. "People who build from ruin always do better work. They understand what broken looks like, so they know how to truly fix it." He helped me repair that cabinet for free, teaching me proper techniques and shortcuts professionals used. His quiet kindness felt foreign after so much cruelty from my family. Over the following weeks, Lucan became an unexpected ally, referring clients to me when his construction projects needed interior design consultation. He never asked about the gossip or drama, never made me explain or justify my worth. He simply treated me like someone capable and deserving of success. That simple respect meant more than he probably ever realized. A spark of hope flickered inside me, small, fragile, but real nonetheless. Meanwhile, Talia's social media presence exploded with picture-perfect moments designed to showcase her happiness. She posted engagement photos with Ronan inside my old bedroom, the room I'd decorated myself, filled with furniture I'd saved months to buy. They posed by my bookshelf, on my bed, surrounded by things that used to be mine like they'd always belonged to them. I scrolled through the photos, trembling with a mixture of rage and grief, my finger hovering over the comment button. I wanted to expose them, to tell everyone the truth about what they'd done, to ruin their carefully constructed narrative. Instead, I closed the app and opened my laptop, focusing on designing a logo for my first actual paying client, a small coffee shop owner who wanted help making her space more inviting. Revenge in silence felt better, more powerful somehow. Every hour I spent building my business was an hour not spent drowning in their cruelty. Every small victory was proof that I existed beyond their story about me. That night, I landed 2 more client consultations through referrals, and for the first time since my world collapsed, I fell asleep feeling something other than despair. I felt purposeful. 3 months into building Hearthlight, my mother showed up at Saren's apartment unannounced. I heard her voice through the door before Saren reluctantly let her inside. Mom stood in the tiny living room scanning everything with critical eyes. The second-hand furniture, the cluttered workspace I'd created in the corner, my laptop surrounded by fabric samples and paint chips. "So this is where you're surviving," she said, the word dripping with disdain. Not living, not building, surviving. Like I was some pathetic creature barely clinging to existence. You always liked struggling, didn't you? Playing the victim. The accusation stung because it was so fundamentally wrong. I'd never wanted struggle. I'd wanted family, support, love, basic things she'd given freely to Talia while rationing them to me my entire life. "I'm doing fine, Mom," I replied calmly, refusing to give her the emotional reaction she seemed to want. She smirked, clearly not believing me. "Well, when you're ready to apologize to your sister and be part of the family again, you know where to find us." She left without another word. That night, I landed 2 new client contracts worth more than a month's rent. The universe had perfect timing. Just as business started gaining momentum, disaster struck from an unexpected direction. A rumor began spreading through local design groups and community forums that Hearthlight overcharged clients and delivered poor quality work. Potential clients canceled consultations. My inbox filled with angry messages from people I'd never even worked with, accusing me of scamming vulnerable homeowners. I was devastated and confused until I traced the rumor's origin back to a coworker of Talia's who apparently owed her favors. The sabotage was deliberate, calculated, meant to destroy my business before it could truly succeed. My first instinct was to fight back with anger, to expose Talia publicly and start a war. But Lucan suggested something smarter. "Transparency beats rumors every time," he said simply. I posted detailed receipts online. Every contract I'd completed, client testimonials with permission, before and after photos, pricing breakdowns showing my rates were actually below market average. I shared my story honestly. A new business owner working hard to build something meaningful despite obstacles. The honesty went viral locally. People appreciated the transparency, the vulnerability, the refusal to engage in drama while still defending my integrity. Within 2 weeks, my bookings tripled. The attempted sabotage had backfired spectacularly, giving me publicity and sympathy I never could have manufactured deliberately. 6 months after everything fell apart, Ronan finally contacted me. A text message appeared late one night. "I made a mistake. Can we talk, please?" My first instinct was to delete it immediately, to protect myself from reopening wounds that were just beginning to heal. But curiosity won. I agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop, but I didn't go alone. Lucan came with me, sitting at a nearby table with a book, present but not hovering. When Ronan walked in and saw Lucan, his face drained of color completely. He'd expected to find me broken, desperate, willing to take him back. Instead, he found me confident, well-dressed, accompanied by someone who clearly cared about my well-being. We talked for 20 minutes while he made excuses and apologies that sounded hollow and rehearsed. He admitted things with Talia weren't working out, that he missed what we'd had, that he'd made a terrible mistake. I listened calmly without interrupting, then said the words I'd been practicing. "I don't recycle mistakes, Ronan. What we had is gone, and I'm genuinely okay with that now." I stood up and walked out while he sat there stunned. Lucan followed silently, and we drove home without needing to discuss what had happened. That closure felt better than any revenge could have. Several months passed in relative peace before my mother called with another unexpected request. "Vesper, I'm hosting a family dinner. I think it's time we all made peace." Her tone suggested this was a generous offer on her part, a gracious extension of forgiveness for my supposed transgressions. Against my better judgment and Saren's advice, I agreed to attend. The dinner started awkwardly, everyone making strained small talk while avoiding real topics. Then, halfway through the meal, the real purpose emerged. "So," Mom began carefully, "Talia's getting married next month. The wedding venue needs decorating and her planner fell through." She paused significantly. "We were hoping you could help with the design. As a gift, of course. Family shouldn't charge family." I stared at them in disbelief. They wanted me to work for free, to donate my professional services to celebrate the sister who'd stolen my boyfriend, using skills I developed while homeless on Saren's couch after they'd thrown me out. The audacity was almost impressive. I started laughing, genuine, incredulous laughter that made them uncomfortable. "No," I said simply, standing up from the table. "I'm a professional now, not your free labor." I walked out mid-meal, leaving them sitting in shocked silence. The empowerment felt incredible. Despite my refusal, Lucan brought unexpected news the following week. He'd been talking to a property investor who staged homes for sale and needed an interior designer for regular consultation work. The contract would be steady income, multiple projects monthly, exactly the kind of stability I desperately needed. I showed him your portfolio, Lucan admitted. He was really impressed. We met with the investor, and he hired me on the spot. The breakthrough I'd been working toward was finally happening. After the meeting, Lucan and I celebrated with inexpensive wine on Saren's tiny balcony, watching the sunset over the city. "Why do you believe in me so much?" I asked him quietly. He looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. "Because you're the most resilient person I've ever met," he said simply. "You lost everything and built yourself back up without becoming bitter or cruel. That's rare." Something shifted between us that evening. A gentle, slow-burn attraction that had been building for months finally acknowledged. He didn't push, didn't rush, just let me know through small gestures that whenever I was ready, he'd be there. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen by someone for the right reasons, not used or taken for granted. The feeling was revolutionary. 2 weeks before Talia's wedding, chaos erupted when her event planner quit unexpectedly over unpaid deposits and constant last-minute changes. Desperate, Talia called me directly for the first time since I'd been thrown out. "Vesper, please," she begged, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "I know we have history, but I really need help. The wedding is in 2 weeks and everything's falling apart." Part of me wanted to refuse immediately, to let her face consequences for once. But another part, the part that was building a professional reputation, saw an opportunity. "I'll do it," I said carefully, "but only with a signed contract, full payment up front, and complete creative control. No interference, no family discounts, no exceptions." She agreed to everything without hesitation, which told me exactly how desperate she was. I drafted a professional contract through my business lawyer, making sure every detail protected me legally. When she signed and transferred the full payment, I felt a strange sense of power. I was helping her not out of family obligation or weakness, but as a paid professional providing services she couldn't get anywhere else on such short notice. The dynamic had completely reversed, and she knew it. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and my carefully executed design vision. I'd spent 2 weeks transforming the venue into something meaningful, but with symbolism only I fully understood. Every design element subtly mirrored my own story of loss and rebuilding. Reclaimed wood features represented taking broken things and making them beautiful. Phoenix motifs appeared in the centerpieces, rising from ashes, transformation through fire. The ceremony backdrop featured vows etched on glass panels. "What's taken can be rebuilt." Guests began noticing the unusual themes, whispering among themselves about the deeper meanings. Some recognized the symbolism immediately, understanding this was more than simple decoration. It was my story woven into their celebration without permission. Talia looked stunning in her dress, but as she walked down the aisle, I saw her pause at the Phoenix centerpiece, recognition dawning on her face. She understood exactly what I'd done. The wedding itself was beautiful and flawless, everything running perfectly because I'm genuinely good at my work. But beneath the surface, my revenge hummed quietly, visible to anyone paying attention, undeniable to those who knew our history. I'd turned their celebration into my resurrection, and there was nothing they could do about it. The reception started smoothly with dinner and toasts, everything proceeding according to schedule. Then, during the dancing portion, Ronan drank too much champagne. I watched from my position near the venue entrance, packing up my equipment as my contractual duties ended. He stumbled toward the microphone during a break between songs, his movements clumsy and desperate. Wait," he slurred, grabbing the microphone from the DJ. "I need to say something." The room quieted, guests turning with curious attention. Talia's face went pale, clearly sensing disaster. "I need everyone to know," he continued, his words echoing through speakers. "I'm still in love with Vesper. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake." Cameras flashed as phones came out to record the unfolding drama. Guests gasped, conversations erupting across tables. Talia's mother rushed toward him, but he kept talking, confessing details about how their relationship had been rocky, how he regretted everything. Talia stood frozen at her own wedding reception, public humiliation washing over her as her perfect day crumbled. My revenge was silent. I didn't cause this, didn't manipulate anything. I simply existed in my success while their foundation cracked under its own weight. I quietly left through the service entrance, driving away as chaos erupted behind me. Online gossip exploded overnight with videos and commentary about the wedding disaster. People dissected every moment, analyzing Ronan's confession and Talia's reaction, sharing theories about what had really happened between us all. The phoenix symbolism I'd woven into the Dacre became a viral talking point, design bloggers praising the metaphorical depth, others recognizing it as subtle revenge. My business phone rang constantly with new inquiries from people who'd seen the coverage. "You're the designer from that wedding?" they'd ask. "The one with all the symbolism. I need that kind of creativity for my space." Within a week, I'd booked more clients than I had capacity for, forcing me to start a waiting list. Sympathy clients found me through the story, people who admired how I turned pain into professional success without becoming vengeful or cruel. Lucan watched it all unfold with quiet amusement. "You didn't even lift a finger," he observed accurately. "You just kept building your life, and theirs collapsed on its own." The truth of his words settled over me like peace. I hadn't destroyed them. They'd destroyed themselves while I focused on reconstruction rather than revenge. The distinction mattered enormously to how I felt about everything that had happened. Within months of the wedding fiasco, Hearthlight expanded beyond anything I'd imagined during those early desperate days on Saren's couch. I hired a small team of 2 assistants who shared my vision for meaningful design rather than superficial trends. A local lifestyle show contacted me about featuring Hearthlight in a segment about emerging small businesses with compelling founder stories. The exposure from that episode brought national attention. Design magazines requested interviews, and larger clients from neighboring cities started reaching out. The biggest milestone came when I signed the lease on a studio downtown, a beautiful space with high ceilings and natural light flooding through large windows. The first key I earned myself, opening a door that belonged entirely to me, felt more valuable than anything I'd lost. I stood in that empty studio the day before we moved in, sunlight warming my face, and cried tears that were finally about joy rather than grief. Saren, Lucan, and my small team helped me move furniture and set up workstations, laughing and planning the future together. These people had become my chosen family, the ones who'd shown up when I needed support rather than taking from me when I was vulnerable. Building something beautiful with them felt like the ultimate vindication. 8 months after Talia's disastrous wedding, Ronan moved out of my old room and their relationship officially ended. Social media posts documenting their breakup appeared gradually, first cryptic quotes about betrayal, then explicit announcements that they were separating. Talia's life seemed to unravel in public view as she posted increasingly desperate content seeking validation and sympathy. Then she lost her job after office drama involving inappropriate behavior with a coworker's partner, a pattern repeating itself with predictable irony. My mother called one evening, her voice tired and small in a way I'd never heard before. "Your sister needs a place to stay," she said carefully, the request implicit. "She's going through a hard time right now and could use family support." The statement hung between us, weighted with unspoken history. I paused, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably before responding. "So did I once," I said quietly but firmly. "I needed a place to stay and you chose Talia over me. I needed family support and you threw me out with 3 boxes. Mom tried to interrupt with excuses, but I continued calmly. "I'm not being cruel. I'm just reminding you that actions have consequences. You made your choice then. I'm making mine now." I ended the call feeling powerful rather than guilty. Despite my resolve, curiosity eventually won over principle. 6 months later, I decided to visit my childhood home for the first time in over 2 years. The house looked smaller somehow, its paint fading and garden overgrown, physical manifestations of the decay happening inside. My mother answered the door looking older and tired, surprise crossing her face at seeing me standing there. "Vesper," she breathed. "You came." Inside, everything felt different. Colder, emptier, filled with tension rather than the warmth I remembered from childhood before Talia became the sole focus of everyone's attention. Talia sat on the living room couch, hollow-eyed and diminished in a way I'd never seen. She looked up when I entered, and for the first time in our entire lives, she didn't have a snide comment or superior smirk ready. Just exhaustion and something that might have been shame. We sat in awkward silence while Mom made tea nobody wanted, the clink of cups the only sound breaking the oppressive quiet. I studied the room that had once been my whole world, feeling nothing but distance from it all now. This place no longer held power over me because I'd built a better home, not a physical location, but a life filled with people who valued me correctly. That realization felt more liberating than any revenge could have been. Eventually, Talia broke the silence with words I'd never expected to hear. "I envied you my whole life," she confessed quietly, not meeting my eyes. Her voice carried genuine emotion rather than manipulation. "Everything seemed so easy for you. You made people love you without trying, without performing or pretending." I stared at her in disbelief. "Easy," I repeated. "Talia, you had everything. Mom and Dad gave you everything while I had to fight for scraps of attention." She shook her head slowly. "You had something I could never have. People liked you for who you actually were. I only got attention by being dramatic, by taking things, by creating chaos. Nobody ever just chose me quietly." The confession was honest and raw in a way our relationship had never been before. I listened, processing this new perspective on our childhood dynamic. It didn't excuse what she'd done, stealing Ronan, taking my room, sabotaging my business. But it explained the desperate patterns I'd witnessed my whole life. Still, forgiveness didn't come easily or automatically just because I understood her motivations better now. "Then stop trying to steal what can't be stolen," I said finally. "Build something real for yourself instead of taking from others." The words hung between us, not reconciliation, but maybe the beginning of understanding. 2 months after that tense family visit, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I called Talia and offered her a paid internship at Hearthlight, not out of pity or family obligation, but as a genuine opportunity to learn and rebuild. "I'm expanding the team," I explained professionally. "I need someone for administrative support and client coordination. The pay is entry-level, but it's real work with growth potential if you're serious." She was silent for a long moment before responding. "Why would you do that after everything I did to you?" I considered the question carefully. "Because I built something strong enough that you can't damage it anymore. And maybe because I'm tired of our story being defined by revenge and pain. This is closure, not forgiveness. Understand the difference." Talia refused immediately, her pride wounded by the idea of working under me, of accepting help from the sister she'd always considered beneath her. "I don't need charity from you, Vesper," she said coldly before hanging up. That's when I knew I'd truly won, not because she was suffering, but because I'd offered genuine grace from a position of strength, and she couldn't accept it. Her rejection closed the door on our relationship more finally than any revenge could have, with peace rather than bitterness. While helping my mother clean out the attic during a final visit to collect some remaining childhood belongings, I found my old journal buried under boxes of forgotten memories. I'd kept it hidden during high school, afraid Talia would find and mock it. Flipping through pages filled with dreams I'd once carefully protected, I realized something profound. The thing I'd taken back, the thing she could never steal, wasn't revenge or success or even happiness. It was deeper than external achievements. I'd reclaimed my peace, my identity, my fundamental sense of self-worth that didn't depend on anyone's approval or validation. Talia had taken my room, my job, my boyfriend, all tangible things that could be replaced or rebuilt with time and effort. But she'd never touched the core of who I actually was because I'd never let her define me, even when everything fell apart. The journal entries proved that. Even at my lowest points, even when I couldn't see the path forward, some essential part of me had survived intact. That survival, that persistence of self, was the true victory. Everything else, the business success, the new relationships, the professional recognition, were just external manifestations of an internal triumph she'd never understood or achieved for herself. The opportunity to renovate a historic house arrived through Lucan's construction network, a project that would require months of collaboration between design and structural work. We walked through the beautiful but damaged property together, imagining possibilities while contractors took measurements and assessed foundation integrity. The work was challenging and fulfilling, combining artistic vision with practical restoration skills I'd developed over 2 years of building Hearthlight from nothing. A local design reporter visited midway through the project to document the transformation for a feature article. She asked about my inspiration during the interview, cameras capturing the dust-covered workspace. "Every broken home can be beautiful again," I answered thoughtfully, looking around at the progress we'd made. "But it starts with your own heart. You can't restore spaces if you're still demolished inside. The external work reflects internal healing." The quote went viral when the article published, resonating with people beyond the design community. It captured everything I'd learned through loss and rebuilding, that true transformation required more than surface changes, that beauty emerged from honest reckoning with damage rather than covering it with pretty decorations. The house renovation finished successfully, and Lucan and I became official partners both professionally and personally, our relationship built on mutual respect and shared creative vision. My new housewarming party filled my beautiful downtown loft with laughter and celebration. Saren, Lucan, my team from Hearthlight, clients who'd become friends, all the people who'd supported my journey gathered together in the space I'd created for myself. We toasted with champagne, shared stories and food, the air warm with genuine affection and joy. Through the large windows overlooking the street below, I noticed a familiar figure standing across the road looking up, Talia, alone, watching from a distance. Our eyes met for a moment across the space between us. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by her choices in ways that had nothing to do with me. I raised my glass slightly in acknowledgement, not gloating or cruel, just genuinely wishing her well from the security of my hard-won peace. She nodded once, then turned and walked away into the evening. I returned to my party, to my people, to the life I'd built from ruins. Later, reflecting on everything in the quiet after guests left, I understood the final truth clearly. She took everything she could touch, my room, my job, my boyfriend, trying to take my dignity and future too. But I took back what she never could, my peace, my identity, my unshakable knowledge of my own worth. That was something no one could steal, only something I could give away. And I'd stopped giving it away the moment I decided to write my own story instead of living in theirs. The revenge wasn't what I did to them. It was what I did for myself. That made all the difference.